This meeting is being recorded.
Hello and welcome to this podcast of Sam's Alternatives, episode 2. I will be chatting to, of course, Adrian from Auckland Alternative Metalcore band by the name of course, Chasing Titans, who just released their album earlier this year, which was, of course, Infinite Paradox. So we'll be talking to Adrian about a whole heap of things. I just wanted to get on just quickly before we started the recording. So, of course, last night I went to a gig in Traralgon at the Deck, which used to be K Street. I think it's still technically called K Street. But it was Ocean Sleeper Quarter Form, also Mirrors and Outloved. It was an amazing gig. Got to catch up with so many people, like band members of both Ocean Sleeper and Outloved, James from Quarter Form, a whole heap of punters from other bands like Terrence, who used to be in Suspiria, also Brody from Common Evil, among others. So it was a really, really good night. And yeah, amazing gig. One of the best I've been to be quite honest. I think the thing I loved most about it was that the night didn't feel like it dragged on at all. It didn't. It felt like literally I'd walked into the actual venue and then it was finished. Because, like, Mirrors had 40 minutes and they finished with Leave Them Behind, which is arguably my favourite Mirrors song. But the funny thing was, it didn't feel like 30 or 40 minutes for any of these bands. And then Ocean Sleeper, of course, had an hour set. They played all their songs off their Maybe Death Is All I Need EP. They played Forever Sinking, Your Love I'll Never Need. Also, Light in My Dark. They actually ended on Light in My Dark, which is personally one of my favourite Ocean Sleeper songs. So yeah, an amazing gig at, of course, the Deck. I hope that people did attend that gig. It was sold out, which is awesome to see, and great to see local music back in the Latrobe Valley. Off to the Bendigo Hotel tonight for the first time in 9 months. So there's a bit of a coincidence with the last time it was at the Bendigo Hotel, because the last time I was at the Bendigo Hotel, Disgust played that gig, and they're playing tonight. Of course, it's Mullane's last show from Deadweight 80, which is sad, but he's been part of the band since day one. And if you haven't checked out the band Deadweight 80, you're missing out. Of course, Get Wrecked, Loner, All Monsters Are Human, and Disgust are playing that. Of course, Disgust coming off their single launch, of course, of Scapegoat that was out a couple of months ago. The other thing I want to talk about just quickly is the top 1400 best songs of 2024 countdown. How good has it been so far? We're 900 songs in, 500 to go. The $1,000,000 question is, what is actually left in the countdown? This top 500 could very well be the best end to a countdown that I've ever done. Like, not giving too much away, but there's a lot of people asking, where's Vestige by Mirrors? Where's Ocean Sleeper? Where's bands like Where the Devil? Oh, I've got Adrian waiting to join, so I better let him in. But yeah, thought I'd have a bit of a yarn before that. Anyway, Adrian's just about to jump on, so we're just waiting. Won't be too long. Hello, Adrian.
Hey Sam, how's it going, man?
Yeah, not too bad. Oh, I can hear you perfectly. I might just turn my mic a bit more towards the computer so I can hear it perfectly.
All good.
Yeah. Now, how are things over in New Zealand?
Oh yeah, it's hot, man. Like summer's really kicking in, so we all roasting up here. What
oh,
about down there?
it feels like an oven down here, Adrian. Not
Yeah,
literally, but it
yeah,
actually feels like that. It's like, whoa, this is just only, what, 14 days into summer now? And
yeah, that's it, eh?
and I'm a wuss, Adrian. I hate the heat constantly.
Yeah, no fair. It's funny, a lot of people actually have been warning me about Australia because like when we complaining and I was saying, yeah, I'm going down to Australia in a week or two, they're like, man, it's even worse there. It's absolutely crazy. I'm hearing all these horror stories now, and I'm like, damn, I need to just take shorts with me, basically.
Yeah. The other issue if you take shorts, Adrian, the problem is then it will rain and then it'll be cold and you think, oh, it's summertime. Maybe I should have
Yeah.
brought pants.
Yeah, that's a problem because are you guys getting like a couple of seasons in the same day?
Yes, constantly.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got to be prepared for all things then.
Yes. Well, they say 4 seasons in one day. That's what it is
Yeah.
in Melbourne.
Oh, wow. Crazy, man. Crazy.
But it's awesome to have a chat with you, Adrian, because I'm a
Yeah, you too,
massive
man.
Chasing Titans fan. Infinite Paradox is
Cheers, man.
fucking awesome, pardon my
Oh,
language,
thanks.
but
Cheers.
and of
That's
course,
yeah, thanks. Glad you enjoyed it, man.
yeah. Well, it's doing pretty well in the countdown as well, but I'm
Mhm.
sort of trying to stay tight-lipped. But there actually is a few more songs in the countdown to come, but you didn't
Oh,
hear it from
nice.
me.
Okay. My mouth is closed. I didn't hear anything.
Mouth is closed. I'm not good at keeping secrets, Adrian. I'm terrible at it. So. Like this happened a few months ago. Someone actually told me, "Oh, there's a lineup coming up in Australia that's going to be at the end of the year. You must not say anything about it." I'm like, "Please don't put me in that position."
Yeah, it's hard, man, especially if you're excited about it and there's like bands you want to see. I'll be the first one to just be like, do you know what's happening? Do you know who's playing? So when it comes to stuff like that, man, yeah, I'm like, don't tell me. I don't want to keep that secret because I wouldn't be able to keep it, man. I'll be too excited.
Nah, I would be too. And especially, as you said, Adrian, when it's a band you love and you haven't maybe seen before, it's even bigger.
Oh yeah, because you're just so excited and you can't wait to get it out there. Then you want to see, is anyone coming with me to see this band? Get tickets now. What's gonna happen? Clear your schedule to make sure you're free on the day. So that's a hard secret to keep, man.
Yes. And of course, for those that don't know, as Adrian mentioned, Chasing Titans are actually touring Australia very shortly.
Mm. Yeah, this is gonna be our first big tour outside of New Zealand, so we're really excited. I've been wanting to go to Australia and actually tour there for a very long time since our EP was released. It's been on my list to go. So yeah, I can't wait, man. Like we're all very, very excited.
Nah, it should be a great tour. So you're playing Sydney and a few shows sort of in New South Wales, I see.
Yeah, yeah, we're starting off in Mawalumba and then we're heading up to Brisbane for the Monk and Pedal Festival. And then from there, I believe we're heading down to Wamberal and then Canberra from there and then ending off in Sydney. Yeah.
So missing Melbourne, unfortunately.
Yeah. The funny thing actually about that was when we were first like approached to do it and we started sorting it out, my whole thing was starting in Melbourne and going up to Sydney, because I wanted to do Melbourne and Sydney. Those were like my top two cities to do. But our tour manager was saying, especially for the time of year, that I think Melbourne would be wouldn't be as warm as Brisbane and the rest of the upper coast there. And they had Monk and Pedal going on. So they're like, we could put you on this festival. You guys would still have a good time weather-wise. Going down, Melbourne would be so cold. So I was like, okay, next time. But Melbourne, that was the biggest shame, I think, of this tour, not to do Melbourne. But it's definitely, I can feel we will definitely come back to Australia again. And that will for sure be a Melbourne show.
Oh, that would be awesome. But that Monk
Yeah.
and Pedal Festival, I've seen the lineup to it. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's some awesome bands, man. It was insane. Like some bands I've been listening to for years, and I was just like couldn't believe some of the bands on that list. So yeah, we're really, really lucky and happy to be on the bill for that one.
I like the title too because it's sort of like a mix on punk and metal, but they've switched
Yeah,
around the M for
yeah,
the punk and the P for the metal. It's,
yeah, yeah. It's quite funny. It's quite cool. I feel like these days, like everyone's trying to get like a really cool name for festivals, and I've seen this like there's cool ones, and then there's like these. I wouldn't say low effort, but there's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good festival. But these ones really are cool because I can see a lot of thinking kind of went into make it clever, and I
yeah.
think I really appreciate that with my sense of humor and stuff. So yeah, no, it's cool, man. I like it.
Nah. Because I think this is the third time they've done Monk and Pedal, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think yeah, it's about the third yeah, I think it's about the third or fourth time. This is the biggest one so far because there's been a lot of sponsors involved in this and insane amount of promotion as well.
Yep.
So yeah, when we were offered it, there was like no thinking it twice. We're like, this is it for sure for us will be the highlight, of the tour.
Yeah.
Um, it's a funny one as well because Sly, my bassist, was just telling me the other day something I didn't realize was the time difference between New Zealand and Brisbane. we actually go on Monk and Pedal. I think we're the last band on the main stage at 11:30 p.m. But it's literally like 3:30 a.m. in New Zealand, and this is our second or third day in Australia. So we're like, there's gonna be a couple of Red Bulls going down that day.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten because Brisbane's an hour behind us at the moment, Adrian. But on
Yeah.
top of that, New Zealand. Now, for those that don't know, because Adrian's in New Zealand, he's ahead of me in time, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it's straight from the future.
But no, I'm loving the New Zealand music scene. There's so many good ones. Like we talk about Chasing Titans and
Mm.
No Life, Crooked Royals in their
Oh
image.
yeah.
There's a whole
Yeah.
heap of them.
Oh, I tell you, the metal and rock scene here is insane. And I mean, of course, it's not as big as Australia, but the quality of bands is so high. And we lucky enough to play with some really amazing bands out here. And yeah, I always tell people like if you look into the heavy scene in New Zealand, it's mind-blowing how good the bands are and what a good scene we got. It is like a small country, so obviously playing in a genre that's not mainstream, there's it's a very niche kind of thing, so that's why it's a bit of a tiny scene. But I think despite how small it is, it's so full with such good bands and such quality bands. Yeah, we absolutely love it.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen a bad New Zealand band here in Australia. I almost put two of them in probably the best gigs I've ever been to. No Life
Oh yeah.
and they were
Yeah.
insane a couple of months ago, and Crooked Royals when they toured here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, no, there's some really, really good bands. I get blown away every time like I find a new band and they just like so good. Every time when we play shows, a lot of times we'll play with some new bands or some upcoming bands, some bands we've never heard of, and I just get blown away. I was like, I don't expect bands to be this good, but the quality is just so good. And I'm really proud to be part of a scene like that, man. Yeah.
no, it's awesome. And I think here in Australia, like, I know how big Australian music is at the moment. Like, you look at some of the bands making it big, but it's awesome to see that it's not just here in Australia, it's New Zealand, it's worldwide. Like, this year's
Yeah.
probably been, if not one of the best years for new music. It's been crazy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's so many new cool bands coming out. I love the things that people are trying and people are doing lots of different cool fusions. It's amazing, man. And I think it makes the live shows really fun and also really dynamic as well, because bands sound so different but complement each other so well. And I know for our shows as well, that's what we always try to find, like bands that are similar to us but also different in their own ways. And
Yeah.
that just puts on such a cool show for everyone.
And putting on a cool show, and I think it's as important if you're playing to the 20 people to keep them entertained as it is
Oh
500
yeah.
people.
Oh no, 100%. Like one of our main mantras and ethos approaching each show, and I tell the guys all the time is it doesn't matter if there's two people in the audience or 2,000 people, we got to play the same caliber of show for them because my aim always is I want people to go away thinking like I got so much more than I was expecting. So we got to always give 150% for it. And yeah, it's amazing, man. It's like the support we get, I think, by approaching things that way is insane and absolutely lovely to see. And I always look at it like if I'm going to see a show with some bands, and even if there's not a lot of people, if they put on a good show, I'll be like dedicated to this band and really want to support them just for giving me that experience seeing them.
No, definitely. And I think the other thing is when you think about it as a band, not that I would know, Adrian, because I'm not in a band,
Mm,
but those two, 5, 10 people could have been anywhere else on the night,
exactly.
and they
Yeah.
spent their money to come and see your band and three or four others. It's pretty
That's it.
special.
Oh, it's so cool, man. And I think that like I think for me and for us as well, it still always blows my mind to see the support we get and people come out and see us consistently. On our first EP tour, literally the first tour we ever did, there's a few people who followed us on that whole tour from Auckland to Tauranga to Rotorua, driving hours just to see us. And I couldn't believe it. I was even like, why are they like doing it because it was insane the dedication people had, and even up till today when we go out, there's still people who come to every single show. There's familiar faces. I think lately I've started seeing a lot of people wearing our shirts and coming to like shows with big bands on it, but they chose to wear our shirt. And for me, that's always like a butterfly in my stomach. This is like an insane, surreal dream come true, and I just have so much gratitude for them. And like that's the thing. Whenever we at practice and we work in something, I always motivate the guys by saying, "This is the folks who are coming out to our shows, and no matter what's going on with us in our personal lives or what's not working, we owe it to them to just push that to the side and just deliver 150% show to the best of our abilities because these people are why we do it. They just like I can't even quantify how amazing support like that is. Yeah.
Mm. No, definitely. And I haven't seen many shows or haven't been to many shows lately where I felt like the band hasn't done what you've said and put in 150%. Sometimes I think they even put in more than that, some
Yeah.
bands. And
Yeah.
just, I think, and this happened last night, and this is a band that, are coming up in Australia by the name of Mirrors, and I hadn't seen them in 3 years. They hadn't played since Unified 22 that I'd been to. And I just
Yeah.
said to one of the other bands, I just said, I actually forgot how good a show Mirrors put on. Because last night they
Yeah.
absolutely killed it. And
Yes.
just, I don't know, it's thinking, where have they been hiding for the last 3 years? Obviously,
Yeah.
they've been touring and doing other stuff, but
Yeah. It's really cool. I think it's a really cool motivating factor as well because I know when I go out and see a band and they put on a good show, I'm like, these guys are so inspirational. This is amazing. I want to do our shows just like this because this is the feeling you want. And I think we all feed off that, and it's become this thing where we all try to put in the best we can, and we just deliver a really good show for the audience, which is what it's all about at the end of the day. So I think it's a really good positive feedback system in that sense.
yeah.
And it's probably one of the best times to see live music because this is, what's happening, especially smaller shows with up and coming bands and, you know, uh, bands that are really working hard. Like you get the biggest bang for your buck in that sense because, you pay maybe like $10 or $20 to gain entry, but you just see a phenomenal show. And for me, like even though we play so many shows, I still go out and see small bands playing. I still go out and see every kind of show on and see because I always think about how good it is for these bands not only to go to the shows but seeing what they're doing and always getting inspired by that. So I think it's a really cool thing to do.
I totally agree with that. And I think, 10, $20, like for me, I'd be happy to pay $30 to see five or six bands.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people think, oh, I'll pay $300 for one big artist and then
Mhm.
say, oh, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because,
And
yeah, I just think pay $30, see five or six local bands, and your next favourite band might be on that lineup.
yeah, that's it exactly. And I feel it's also the thing because with a lot of not major artists but smaller bands, everyone works so hard because they want to succeed. They want to grow their following and deliver a good show. So you very unlikely to see a bad show because everyone is putting that in. And arguably, you could say like a bigger artist who's always guaranteed to sell out arenas, they could sometimes still put on good shows but not have that hunger, that us
Mm.
like smaller bands have just to, put it in. So even in that sense, it's even more worth your while to pay like $30 and see five bands versus 300 to see one artist who just doesn't do it for you on that specific night. Maybe they're having an off night and just.
Yeah, and I think also with the $300 one, they're at bigger arenas as well. So if you haven't got close up seats,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I've seen that happen with Slipknot and I think the tour next year. I've just been seeing like the comments and everyone is complaining that like a lot of the Australian shows, the standing tickets have just been gone and it's just seated and no one wants to sit at a Slipknot show and everyone's complaining about it. It's that kind of thing.
I'd much rather sit. Like, I would love to stand at a Slipknot show, but if the alternative was miss out or sit, I know what I'd be doing, sitting.
Exactly. I mean, I got my ticket for that show, and it's a seated seat, but I was like sweet with that because I've never personally seen them live. I've always wanted to. So, this is it. And I did see Blink 182. I think it was last year. It was a seated seat, but it was super close to the stage on the side. So for me, that was even better because I was so up close to the stage. I could see everything. And
Yep.
if I was tired, I just could sit down and still enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Because
but that,
the problem is, and I don't want to give away my age here, Adrian, but
yeah.
I'm getting a bit to the 40 side of life now, and for those gigs and festivals, I can't stand up for
Oh,
4 or
I
5 hours.
I can definitely relate to that. I can't imagine that either. I mean, it's super fun, I think, especially when you're young and you're in your teens or your early 20s. And the pit is there and Wall of Death. And, honestly, when we play, we obviously have all these things and people are having fun in it. But I don't know if I personally would be in it. So it's like I
Oh,
always love people having fun, but yeah, I feel especially if you're standing hours and there's delays and that kind of thing, yeah, you'd appreciate a seat in those
yes.
times. So I can see like a lot of my friends who are going to Slipknot, they were also complaining, oh, we didn't get standing seats. But I was like, you know what, seated is definitely the way to go for a show where, you might be on your feet for a very long time.
Yes, I can imagine Slipknot doing like 2 or 3 encores because when I saw him at
Yeah.
Knotfest a couple of years ago, they went backstage, came back out, went backstage, like, oh, just get to the last songs.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how that happens, eh? Sometimes you could be enjoying the show, but still wanting it to end at some
Yeah.
point, where it's like this real fatigue that happens. And not that you're not enjoying it, it's been amazing, but you're like, okay, like, let's get on with it.
Yes, nah. And if Slipknot are watching this, which I don't think Corey Taylor would be, that's no disrespect to Slipknot.
No, for
They've
sure.
been doing it for 25 years and have killed it in the new metal scene for that
Oh,
time.
yeah, it's been amazing. That was, I think, one of my biggest inspirations growing up was that first album and seeing how successful they got with it and trying new things with the masks and the rituals and the shock value. That was really, really cool.
That album, like, I loved Iowa, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. One of my favorites.
I think Eyeless and Spit It Out alone on self titled is
Mm,
just a killer album. And then you throw in, yeah, like Sick and
yeah.
Wait and Bleed and also
Oh yeah.
Surfacing, and you got a bloody good album.
Yeah, no, it was insane. And funny enough, I had Iowa and listened to that before they self-titled. So it was that was very interesting. It was almost like a reversal, and I was a massive fan, read all the interviews, and I remember Corey Taylor saying they really wanted to get heavier for Iowa. They really felt they needed to. And like honestly, in my opinion, it's still the GOAT. It's the greatest of all time, that album, because it was just perfection. I don't even know how to quantify it or put it into words of how good an album it was. And in some ways, it was what we needed as a world, as metal fans. We needed something like that. So, yeah.
If someone asked me the best track off Iowa, it would change literally every day, I reckon.
Yeah. Just depending on the mood, man. It's even the title track, Iowa, which is like 14, 15 minutes long. I
Yeah.
could like literally listen to it just for that drop and that, bridge chorus to kick in where it gets all heavy. It's just phenomenal, man. And I mean, just from there, I was a massive Mudvayne fan as well.
Oh,
It's been amazing to see
amazing.
them come back. It's like I always felt they didn't get the props, they really deserve because in some ways they're overshadowed by Slipknot and there's a lot of people always talk about new metal and classify new metal, bunch them up. But man, I think Ryan Martini as a bassist and even Matt who's played drums in Mudvayne, they're just like phenomenal musicians. Their songs technically from a music point of view are absolutely insane. And I think, yeah, that their debut album, LD50, is still like one of the best things I've ever heard. And it's cool to see them come back and play shows again. But yeah, man, that era of music was just
Oh.
so good.
I reckon I the first Mudvayne song, everyone says, "Oh, it's got to be Dig, hasn't it?"
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it wasn't
Yeah.
actually Dig that was the first song I heard from Mudvayne. It was because I was watching Ghost Ship, and of
I
course,
knew you were gonna say that. Yeah,
Not Falling, of course,
not
being on the
falling.
movie soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a really good album as well. And I think I remember Dig won the first ever MTV2 award. And when they presented it, I think it was like Eve and some other like rap artist who presented the award. And Mudvayne came out with like these white suits. They had like these bullet wounds with blood all over their faces. And
Oh
they were
shit!
so freaked out, these presenters. And everyone was like, what the hell is this? But it was just amazing. And I was like, oh, I gotta listen to these guys.
If Mudvayne came out on stage and I was presenting an award, I'd be like, "What the hell is going on here?"
Oh man, it was insane. It was so out of left field, but absolutely, absolutely amazing. Like for the time, yeah. Oh,
that
just such good
all
bands.
that late '90s, early 2000s era of new metal, like
Yeah,
Corn, Slipknot, System, Mudvayne. I
yeah.
mean,
It was insane, man. It was insane, and I'm actually seeing new metal make a comeback in like these days, which is really cool. And I think like System and Korn and Deftones just announced a massive tour in the States, and everyone's freaking out about that. And
oh,
it's really cool to see this happen. It was. I feel like for a while we didn't have new metal or that kind of sound, and things were becoming experimental and different things were becoming popular, and everyone suddenly decided, okay, it's cool again. Everyone's getting into it. But man, I always loved it. It was always a cool sound. So I grew up on new metal, man. That was
yeah.
my niche. I love the bands coming out then.
Yeah, my brother was a massive Seven Dust and Corn
Oh
fan.
yeah.
Then he got into Deftones and Static X. I'm like, I think I know what I'm going to be listening to when I grow up.
Yeah. Oh man, those it's so cool to see a lot of those bands still around and still playing, and like whenever they tour, I don't think twice, about like going and seeing them. And um obviously with COVID it sucked a bit with a lot of tours and stuff stopped in New Zealand, but I think they're making up for that now. We've seen a lot of cool bands come down here in a short period of time.
Mm. Oh yeah, it's bloody COVID, but that's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
uh, no, I think yeah, we're making up for it now. The last few years, it seems like all the big
Yeah.
name metal bands from everywhere around the world are coming to Australia, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. I think that's one of the things that we love about it as well, because a lot of times New Zealand gets skipped because at the same time it's our music industry is very mainstream orientated. So I think a lot of bands have tried it, and it's very hard to make a break even on like a stadium tour unless you massive like Slipknot or something. But at least for us it's not too bad because we can always just fly over to Australia and go to download or see
Yeah,
the bands we really want to see.
and depending what part of Australia as well, like Melbourne from Auckland's only about 3 or 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's not bad at all. You can easily take a flight, go down for a weekend show, and come back up just in time for work on Monday. So, so
I'd love
good.
to. I'd love to get over to New Zealand. There's one problem: I don't have a passport, which I keep saying I'm going to get one. And
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. As soon as you get started with the passport, man, yeah, definitely come over. It's cool, man. There's a lot of places actually, a lot of places you can see local tunes. We've been a bit rocky to be honest since COVID because I know a few venues have closed down. It's been a bit of a battle, but we still have some like staples, that
yeah,
on a Friday, Saturday night you can go down there. There's always local bands playing. There's always after parties for bigger bands have come through. It's cool, man. It's a really
yeah.
cool scene. Yeah,
No, I'll have to get over to New Zealand at some stage. I should get
definitely.
into state as well because I keep saying that to bands like, "When are you coming?" I'm like, maybe next year." But
That's what you
no.
said last year.
Yeah, that's the response I get, Adrian. They say, "Oh, you said that last time we were down here." I'm like, "Okay, all right." Just
No
oh,
fair.
love the background and in
Oh
your
yeah,
picture,
yeah. That's
Infinite
a
Paradox album cover.
album cover. Yeah, yeah. I kept it themed.
Yeah, Sam's is pretty boring. It's a cactus poster with a white door, but
No, it's cool. I like the minimalism. It's cool, man.
But
Really.
far out, have we been talking for 25 minutes? Yep,
Oh yeah.
this is what happens, Adrian.
Yeah.
We get talking and then an hour disappears.
Yeah, I can so relate to that, man. I know what you mean.
But yeah, so it's just going to be a bit of a interview. Well, it's an interview, but a lot of people say it's more like we're just having a good old chat over
Yeah.
WebEx. So I'll
Yeah.
ask you a few questions about chasing titans, and then I'll give Adrian the fun part because we used to do this on my podcast. The guest then asked the interviewer a hard-hitting question at the end of the video.
Oh, nice. Okay, I got to think of something now.
So I'll give you a bit of time. It won't take ask it now, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No pressure.
Also, nothing's off limits for that question. You're
Okay.
gonna ask either. So I've been asked some pretty weird stuff. So,
Okay. Okay.
but also just before we get into the interview, this episode will be uploaded. I'm hoping tomorrow night, but
Okay.
depends on how much other stuff is happening. But Monday night at the absolute latest.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And
Sounds
I'm
good.
and what I'm doing now is I'm putting up a Spotify playlist of bands that I interview and put a few of their songs in that playlist and then share it on the day the video goes up.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. That sounds
So
good.
yeah, I just thought like just so the band gets a bit of exposure.
Yeah, yeah, and get a feel for it as well. Yeah.
Because if you haven't checked out Chasing Titans, you're definitely missing out. And after this interview, you'll want to go and check them out if you haven't already.
Hope you guys like the tunes.
Yes. All right, Adrian, the first question of the day is how did Chasing Titans form as a band?
Mm. So, in 2016, I met Torrance and we formed a very short-lived band. I think it was called Metro Lanes. And it was me, Torrance, who's on drums in Chasing Titans, and we had a keyboardist at that time. And literally the only song we worked on throughout the year was what eventually became Star to Slip on Infinite Paradox. And in 20, I think, yeah, that was about 2016, 2017. In 2018, I put out an ad for a bassist in our local band's classifieds page. And that's when Sly, who screams and plays bass, he replied to that. And I'll never forget the first day I met Sly, we went out to this bar down in the city center. And I'm not exaggerating when we say from about like 2 p.m. till 7 p.m. we just spoke. We had a couple of beers and just talked nonstop, basically like this, but literally for like a whole work day's worth. And we didn't see where the time went. And it was awesome. We just kind of clicked, like same frequency, same wavelength. We love the same music, the same bands. We talked about our goals in music, what we want to do. And yeah, it was funny, man. It was amazing because I worked with a lot of musicians before that. But yeah, me and Sly, we just clicked like really close bros.
Yep.
So yeah, we really formed from there. That's where the lineup really finalized in 2018 with me, Sly, and Torrance. And yeah, we just started, writing tunes, practicing from there, and going forward. And that would have been the first year as Chasing Titans. Our first show came about the year after in 2019. Yeah.
Before that dreaded C word came into effect.
Yeah. Oh, geez, let's not talk about that.
That word we never mention again. But
Yeah.
I can't keep that promise, Adrian, because every time I say it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But
No, fair
that's
enough.
I like that story though, like you and Sly and Torrance. But interesting that you spoke for 5 hours. You didn't
Oh,
know each other.
yeah.
Sometimes not knowing the other members before joining the band sometimes is easier than if you've known them your whole life.
That is really true. And I think, it's funny because I hear about a lot of friction for people who know each other for a long time just because they know each other. So it's not so much like in some ways a professional relationship. There's a lot of personal emotions get tied in, and that's where friction can occur. And it's one of the things that I feel is super important with bands and longevity is everyone just being on the same page with what we're trying to do with goals and stuff. And I think in Chasing Titans, we're very fortunate that we just all locked into that. And yeah, with Sly, like, I mean, it's funny, we still have this joke that goes on where after every practice, we'll say goodbye to Torrance, and we are supposed to leave, but Sly and I will stay in the parking lot and literally talk for another half an hour before leaving, and that's become like the running joke. So it's yeah, it's funny, like we kind of like best friends in a sense because we still go to shows together and do all the stuff outside of just Chasing Titans. But it's really cool that way because I know I've played with a lot of other musicians. I've hung with other friends, and it's not like that with everyone. Like it's just luckily it works so well with Sly and Torrance, and in other bands I've been with, it wasn't the case, and it's been more of a chore or like a job to get stuff done, you know.
Yeah.
But it definitely helps so much when everyone's on the same page and we can, get goals done easier. We can, focus on specific things and just get what we needed to do done. And it makes it fun along the way too. I think touring especially, yeah, I've heard horror stories with people on the road, with people unable to cohabitate and coexist, in that situation. But yeah, we always like we have it down. We toured quite a lot in New Zealand. I'm not even worried about Australia because we kind of just know how to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's personalities, man. It always comes down to that.
I also think here in Australia as well, like we're pretty welcoming to international bands. Like
Yeah.
we'll like you straight away. Like we love the Kiwis over here.
Yeah, no, funny enough, I've loved every Australian I've spoken to, you included so
Yeah.
far. I just find everyone's laid back, you can crack a joke and have a good time, so I've been having a really good experience so far, That's why I always say I'll definitely be coming back to Australia.
Oh no, better not fuck up then, Adrian.
No,
It's
no
like,
pressure.
oh, just put me on the spot there. Now you've got to perform, Sam. Uh, this is the other thing. Like we were talking about how you could have conversations with Sly and Torrance, and
Yeah.
there's you can just get along and do all that. I find with interviews, if you don't know the person, like I don't know Adrian very
Mm.
well, I feel like it's a lot more laid back when you don't know the person you're talking to.
That is true. That is true because I feel, because there's a big unknown, so you're kind of like trying to probe all areas, but it's still got a very relaxed approach. Maybe if we knew each other better, it would be a bit more harder to. I'm thinking about maybe it'd be harder to give what you'd call insightfulness in an interview because you might think, well, I know about this. Maybe it won't be as good to talk about this because it's not that interesting versus the unknown. Like we don't know what's interesting or not, so let's throw it out there, and see where it goes.
Well, what, fair 33 minutes of very interesting talking already, and it
Yeah, I know,
felt
right?
like 33 seconds, honestly. That's how
Yeah.
quickly it's gone. I
This
mean,
feels like me talking to Sly, actually. Like, it's been hours and hours.
oh, hang on. Have I got an alter ego? I'm Sam, but in another sense.
Yeah. Oh, geez, if we had Sly on here, man, we'd still be at the how's it going stage after 30 minutes.
Oh, I love those interviews. It's like, oh, you've been talking for this long, and it's like, I haven't even asked a question yet. I think the record is
Yeah.
an hour without
Yeah.
asking a question.
But you know what? It's very funny because it's really cool. Like, I really enjoy it. And I think I had, like, before this, we had an interview with, I think it was called Biggie Nicks on the Biggie Nicks show. I think that's the name. But it was it was for Monk and Kettle. And I think he was down in Brisbane. And that was really cool. We actually, after the interview, were like, man, this was so laid back. We had such a good time. We loved it. And we've been interviewed quite a bit in New Zealand. But funny enough, I actually find the New Zealand interviews I'm a bit more nervous or anxious because it's, maybe it's a bit of a generalization, but the ones I've experienced so far has been more like business, professional, not as laid back. Even though it's in a way like we're trying to be laid back, but it's yeah, I don't know how to describe it. There's not so much casual banter going on. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying this.
Don't end, Sam. Don't end. Don't press end recording yet. That's why my hands are nowhere near the mouse on the computer. Because I know if my hands are on the table, it'd be like, whoops. Actually, I had a funny story about that. One
Mm.
interview I did back on the podcast, we'd only been chatting for 10 minutes or so. And because it was on the phone, my hand was sort of near the finish recording button. And
Oh
I
yeah.
wasn't looking, and I accidentally pushed finish recording. And then the
Oh
band
no.
messages me go, "Were we that bad, were we?" I'm like, "No, my fingers slipped."
It's like, oh, he's using that excuse.
So from now on, my hands are nowhere near the mouse. The mouse is at the end of the table, or maybe not the end of the table, but the middle of the table, so it's out of
Yeah,
reach.
yeah, nice. So you can't use that excuse.
No, unless I'm Inspector Gadget with very long arms, I don't think I'll reach it.
No, fair. Hmm.
Oh, so how did you come up with the band name Chasing
Chasing
Titans?
Titans. Oh yeah. So with us, I know when we started, I think about 2018, we were practicing for a long time. We were gearing up for shows, and we didn't have a band name yet. We didn't start any socials because we didn't have the name. So there's a bit of pressure to come up with a name, but we were taking a while because I know for me, I was like, I really wanted it to be a name that means something. It's not just something random that sounds cool. Obviously, it has to sound cool,
Yeah.
but it also means something deeper, not just to me, but to all of us. And I remember at the time I was playing God of War, and I was like really invested in it. Had all the Greek mythology going on in my mind and reading up on it because I was so fascinated. And I remember I love the whole concept of the Titans being, these massive giants. And I just remember there's one part in God of War where you have to climb up a Titan, and it's like never ending, and it's such a struggle.
Oh,
And so for me, chasing Titans became like this analogy about dreams where when we are younger, like all of us, every single person out there, when we are a young kid, we want to be basketball players and astronauts and rock stars. There's nothing we can think of that we can't be. And it's very achievable. We know this is what we're going to do. We're not thinking like, oh, this might not work or that might not work. It's just like the land of dreams and possibilities. But as we get older and we start working, we kind of become jaded and cynical, and we start thinking, well, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z, and I can't afford to do this, and I'm too old to do this, or I'm not flexible enough to do this, or what if I fail? And what I think happens is these dreams that were very attainable to us, they start getting bigger and becoming these titans where they become this absolute massive monolith that you can't even think about tackling it. It's just a titan. It's, unattainable. And for all of us, for me, Sly, Torrance, our dream has always been playing music since we were kids. And I felt that has been our titan. And this band has been our way of chasing that titan and
yep.
climbing it and conquering it. And yeah, it's basically an analogy for chasing your dreams. And I think that's how we all have our titans. Throughout life, we're chasing our titans. And, for us, Titans has been the band. So I think Chasing Titans was a fitting name for the band coming from that point of view.
That's an actually very, very, very interesting and sort of a new look on a band name, because I hear some band names, it's after the street they've lived in, or you know their favorite album or something to do like that. But
Yeah.
the God of War reference,
Yeah.
and I mean, and chasing your dreams, chasing titans, it now actually makes really good sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something I remember when I thought of it, it just clicked for me like that. And I remember coming to practice and I was telling guys, hey, what about this as a name? Because we're throwing out some things and they're like, oh, it sounds cool. Yeah, yeah. But as soon as I said, what about Chasing Titans? And I kind of explained the reasoning, they were just like, that's it. We
Yeah.
got it. That's it. That's what it's got to be. So yeah, I feel like it's a nice description of the band in a sense as well. It's not just referring to something material or something cool. It's a description of us, of what we're trying to do with music, but it's also a description of you as a person, of every single person, and how it relates to their life as well.
No, it's a very, very good description. And Very well answered too, as
Oh,
well.
yes. Thanks. You can see we've been asked this a lot.
I get the feeling sometimes, and that's why I'm sort of iffy about a few questions with bands. Like, do bands ever get sick of how they came up with the band name? Are they ever sick of how the band formed? But I reckon how the band form is always an interesting question, and you can't get rid of.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I know when I read my favorite band interviews, that's like always the questions they ask, and it's something I've been asked. And I I feel I enjoy always going through the story because like for us it's a personal, but it's kind of like a positive kind of story of how we chose to go about it. Um I feel maybe if the name was something very random, it could be annoying. Like, they could be you could be waiting for this really cool story and you'd be like, nah, that was just my cat's name growing up, you know?
It'd be like interviewing Parkway Drive, and you shout, "So, how did you come up with the band name? It's the street we lived on."
Yeah. Yeah, full stop. That's it.
and and it worked pretty well for them to be the biggest metal band in Australia. So
Oh yeah, yeah, hell yes. That's a super cool name as well. I always love their name and cool story as well. I mean, it's a street name, but it just got a cool ring to it.
yeah, and like I mean, they were boys from Byron Bay 20 years ago.
Yeah. They've been like honestly so inspirational. I feel Parkway Drive and North Lane, they're like my top two favorite Australian bands and absolutely inspiring for all of us in this heavier genre. Um, it's just amazing. I loved seeing this story from where they began to where they are and just always pushing the boundaries and playing these massive shows. It's absolutely inspiring. Yeah, man. Love those guys.
Yeah, I mean, for a band, an Aussie band to play Knotfest and Download, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
It's
not
it's
many
insane.
bands that have played Download and
Nah.
head or been that far up on the bill. There's been a few Polaris, Red Hook a
Mm,
couple of years ago for the 20th anniversary, but
yeah.
yeah,
No, like honestly, the caliber of Australian bands is so high as well. It's some of my favorite metalcore bands have come out of Australia, and it's phenomenal. And I know going onto like social media and forums, and when I speak to like other bands like in the States and Europe, and even fans of metal like myself, and when people talk about the favorite bands, and it's so cool seeing people talk about North Lane, talk about Parkway Drive, and these are the guys who grew up with like Slipknot from their hometown, or like Trivium and stuff like that, or Architects in the UK. It's
yeah.
so awesome seeing that, you know.
No, it's awesome because, now Australia, everyone's like, oh, Aussies, Parkway, North Lane, Alpha Wolf.
Yeah,
Just,
it's awesome. It's such a cool thing. I think it's so inspiring to everyone out there to just show a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. You know, who knows what can happen? These
mm.
guys are living the dreams and they're showing us that.
I honestly don't know who the next big thing in Australia is at the moment. Like, there's that
Mm.
many.
Yeah, it's interesting with the industry these days. And I was thinking about this because like if you think about when we grew up like in the with those early 2000s bands and like we could see like before Spotify and before things were going viral, you'd have a band, they'd put a CD out, everyone would buy the CD, they'd chart, it would blow up. And I feel with Spotify, it's made it it's like it's harder now. It is definitely harder on bands because there's a lot of amazing bands. Distribution is way easier, so it's not so much of a hurdle anymore, and the quality is there. So I feel we're getting access to a lot of good bands with amazing music, where it's harder to just say who's going to be the next thing because there's so many,
Yes.
so many, it's amazing. Yeah, like I can tell I have so many bands in my playlist which who are incredible, and it just goes on and on. And every day, like literally every day, I'll discover like a new band who are just superb.
Mm.
So I think that definitely, holds the straw to who's the next big thing. Versus in the early 2000s, where we'd have Kerrang and Enemy coming out with, hey, there's a new band. They'd be like, oh, who are these guys? Follow them down. Suddenly they're the big next thing. We're almost being shown,
Yeah.
who's the next big thing. Versus now, we just choose who we listen to on Spotify, and they're like, you know, build it
No.
that way.
And like, obviously Spotify does the release radar or new, what is it, New
Mm,
Music Friday. That's where I
yeah.
get half my music outside of PR. Getting a lot
Oh.
of PR at the moment, which is good. People sending through songs. Unfortunately, I can't play them, but I always
Mm,
share them up on my newsfeed and tell people to listen to them. Obviously.
yeah. Yeah, it's it's funny because I feel with me especially, I almost like on YouTube, I'll randomly discover bands. Like if I'm listening to something while doing something else, and YouTube will just do like some kind of mix, and a song will come in, a really good one, and I'm like, damn, this band is good, and I'll look up the name and then fall down the rabbit hole. I remember I discovered this German instrumental band called My Sleeping Karma, who are absolutely phenomenal. And I love them. I absolutely love these guys. And I haven't heard of them before. And they're pretty big in Germany and in Europe. No vocals, just instrumentals. And it's like a lot of shoegazy, like heavy shoegaze. And
Yep.
it just sets you on another level. And they've got this whole like almost like a Hindu theme where each album cover has a Hindu deity on it, but like in a cool way. So the album cover grabs you first. And then, oh man, the songs are just so good. And it's just on YouTube discovering them, you know? So,
Oh.
yeah.
YouTube. If I had a diagram of what app I would use most on my phone, I think it would be before this, before the YouTube channel, it'd still be YouTube.
Oh, honestly, I mean, I think even for us, like a lot of our videos, I'll get comments like in Spanish or something about people randomly stumbling upon us in really liking the band or someone from Germany doing it. I have no idea how they stumbled upon us, but YouTube probably mixed us up, and you know that's always really, really, really cool to see. So a lot of our social media, like I try to pay as much focus as I can to YouTube because I feel that's ultimately where your biggest audience potentially is because everyone is on YouTube, you know, not everyone has Spotify, not everyone's on Facebook, not everyone's on Instagram, but everyone is on YouTube.
Yeah. Nah, and it's good. I think the best thing about YouTube is that you can find nearly anything and everything on YouTube.
Yeah, it's funny. I was even talking to a mate about it. It's like you get your music. If you got a niche problem in your car, how to fix it is on YouTube. You need to repair your fridge, that's on YouTube. You know, you need to watch a award show, it's on YouTube. You need to look at your favorite streamer on YouTube. You're stuck on a game in a certain part, it's on YouTube. Like literally everything is there, you know?
Gee, if you could buy milk on YouTube, you'd have the
Yeah,
whole basis covered.
I know. You could probably learn how to make milk on YouTube.
Wow.
It's there, you know?
Yeah, well, that's actually true because there's a lot of instructional videos on YouTube on how to, make this or how to fix this. It's like, really?
Yeah. I always get blown away by their server space because I can't imagine how much space they need to store all those videos. Like, I think there's something crazy like per hour, there's like, I don't know, a terabyte or hundreds of terabytes or whatever being uploaded per hour that's being stored somewhere. And it just blows my mind. I have no idea where it's being stored.
I shudder to think, actually, Adrian, where it is being stored
Yeah,
because I probably don't want to know.
honestly, yeah, it's like it's absolutely insane. I can't fathom my mind around that because it has to be stored somewhere.
Yep.
But there's so much. You know, when you do the calculations, your mind it's just insane. However they did it, I must take my hats off, but it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Technology in the world of
Oh, I tell you,
internet. I mean,
you got to keep up with it like as much as you can. I feel because I work in technology and it's like a discussion we have all the time about the rate of technology these days is so fast. If you don't keep up with it, it's almost like you're getting left behind. And to understand what's going on today, you have to understand what's happened yesterday. And every day there's something new, you know? And yeah, it's pretty insane. It's like the people who are at the forefront of every day of what you see and what you hear is people who are leveraging technology in their favor. And it even lends itself to the music industry as well. You know, with us, I always say like back in the early, when we grew up in the early 2000s, how big of an artist you are was dependent on the quality of music you make. That is totally not true these days. how big of an artist you are is dependent on virality and who you know and how much exposure you're going to get. So yeah,
Yes.
it's a hard pill to swallow as a musician, and as I tell other bands, but the sooner we swallow it and try to use it to our advantage, the more success or small successes we can get, because that's what it really is comes down to.
Mm.
I think it's
Nah.
one of these ways why there's so many amazing bands that we haven't heard of, and that we discover is because, well, we just haven't heard them come through to us. We don't know about them, and the key step is them getting their music into our ears, and that's the biggest hurdle.
Because, like, I've said this quite a few times, but to keep someone occupied to listen to a 3 or 4 minute song, like, it doesn't sound that hard to do, but
Oh, that's it. The attention span, like our attention span has gone down so low because of the fact we got so much stimulation to choose from that you need to like grab someone within the first couple of seconds. Like, and it's funny because we think about it back in the day, like you buy an album or you're on the radio, you don't have options, so you have to listen to the song to get to the good
yes.
part. Now the good part has to be within the first couple of seconds, or you just skip to the next thing. So that's what makes it so hard as well.
But I spend a lot of time on public transport going to and from gigs because everyone's like, "Oh, how do you listen to all this music?" I'm like, "I don't drive, so I take the
Yeah,
train. Warragul to Melbourne's like an hour and a half, so that's
yeah,
like 20 songs each way,
yeah.
maybe
Uh,
more depending on the duration."
Yeah, that's so important because I think like with me, I drive to work, and so the only time I'm really listening to music is in the car on the drive there and drive back, which isn't like could be maybe 20, 25 minutes. So even me as a consumer of music, I always think, okay, I got this finite amount of time. I want to listen to the best tunes that I can. So even if I'm on a new playlist, if there's nothing grabbing me within the first couple of seconds, I'm just like, skip because I want to maximize my time with that. So that's the challenge I think all artists have. And, you know, that's why marketing and promotions and so much other stuff comes into it these days is just as, if not more important than the actual music itself, honestly.
No, I totally agree with that. So,
Mm.
the way I found Chasing Titans, the story, I love bringing up the stories of how I found the band. There's a couple of
Yeah.
stories to it. I'll give it the shortest version. I stumbled across this New Zealand page, like a metal page or metalcore page, and that's where I found Crooked Royals and In Their
Yeah.
Image and No Life and all that. And then I saw this Chasing Titans band, and like, well, I'm going to check out the other three bands. Checked out Chasing Titans because I had heard a bit about both Surveillance State and Poison Pill because I'd heard them around the traps a bit. I'm like,
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
I'm going to give this a listen. The rest is history.
Ah, nice. That's awesome, man. And that's really cool to hear how you did discover it, because that always interests me. How random sometimes it can be and how you just discover it from somewhere. And yeah, because we've had a lot of, I think, publicity around Infinite Paradox. Um, our label has pushed a lot of interviews and stuff like that we have done. And locally, there's a website called music.net.nz who is absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough about them because they are literally supporting all of us bands in the local heavy and rock scene, and they just do so much for us. And they've always done reviews and interviews. Whenever we have big news coming out, they'll write an article about it and have given us a lot of promo. And I think they in our small kind of music industry, where the mainstream publications won't even bat an eye at us. We have like this little underground website that just does so much. So we owe a lot of our popularity and like people discovering us to that. And I think there's even this other band contacted me the other day from Wellington who told me they discovered us on, like, I think it was a Spotify like underground NZ metalcore playlist or something, which I didn't even
Ooh.
know we were on. And they actually were like, "Oh, we should do some shows together and stuff." So we, it'd be cool to plan some stuff out. But yeah, it's so like random, but really cool to hear how people have discovered us. Yeah,
Mm. Because, I'm one of those people, Adrian, that listens to a band's single album, EP, whatever it may be,
yeah,
and I listen to it all the way through once.
yeah,
Now, 90% of the bands the last 2 years I've actually gone back and just gone and listened multiple times.
yeah.
And like a lot of people say, oh, how can you sit there and listen to a whole album? It's like, it's called a train trip.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was cool because I do remember you messaging box and you actually gave like your favorite songs and like almost notes on it. And I remember sharing that with the guys and we are like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Like, because and normally like when the album came out, I had a lot of people messaging me telling me their favorite songs and quoting lyrics and stuff. But I think you were the first person who actually went through like the whole album and had like notes on each songs. And I know Sly and Torrance were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." This guy actually took the time out to, write notes on every single song, which is his favorite and stuff. So that was that. No, we really love that, man. That was awesome.
I think sometimes with my messages, it's sort of like the bands are probably reading through. It's like, God, this guy really knows.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was. I mean, we love reading that because I think a lot of bands, when you're in the studio and you record the album and you know the songs back to front and you put it out, no one will really know that album the way you do in making it. So
Yeah.
to actually see someone actually make notes about each song was like amazing to see. Because a lot of time in this day and age, you put out a song and you just hope people will listen to it, as opposed to even like actually saying what they feel and think about it. We just listen to it, would be what we want. But yeah, no, that was cool, man. That was really cool to see.
I think a lot of people also that I've sort of spoke to, and there's been a bit of, on social media about like, what, why message a band saying like their music or shy in approaching a band. And it's like, why? Like,
Yeah.
what's the worst they're going to say? Well,
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, it is like one of the strange things I've seen. And I try to think back before I was in band, when I was watching bands, how I felt about it. And yeah, it's weird because I mean, for us, we're always very approachable, and I love, one of the things that I love about being in a band is meeting new people whenever we play at shows and hearing them, their views on the music scene, what they like about shows, because it's always a positive thing. For me, it's like a learning experience, and just learning about other people and like what they get out of shows and stuff. It's always really interesting to me. So yeah, I always feel bands is like playing with bands. I've never met bands. I mean, there have been bands who you don't get along with or who aren't approachable. But in general, I feel like most bands or almost all bands are really cool and laid back. And honestly, if someone says, "Hey, we like this song, this is cool," everyone's just really appreciative because you listen to their music. They
mm.
they work the fruit, the fruit of the seeds that they planted. So I think it's something that is really cool. Like, I've never had a bad experience messaging a band, even before I was in a band, or just approaching the band. They're always really grateful and appreciative. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've never had an issue with approaching a band at a gig because my
Mm.
theory is, what's the worst they're going to tell you? And really, I've never seen a band even look like they don't want to talk to you.
No, no, I mean, I love it. Like, after a lot of times after we play a show, we always go and hang out with everyone in the crowd. And, there's people who want us to sign stuff or take pictures or just hang out and have a chat. And we love doing it, man. It's
Mm.
like that's like one of the best parts for me because I always find like, okay, we put on the show. I'd love to know that you enjoyed it, So if you want to come and tell me you enjoyed it, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Don't feel shy. But to be honest, I do know exactly where you're coming from because I know, especially when we go on tour, like people will come up and be like, "Hey, is it okay if I take a picture with you and stuff?" Because almost like that nervous kind of like we're not sure how you react. I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." I'm always like, feel free, like I always, all of us, we always try to make that friendly, welcoming atmosphere because I do see it like, I don't know if it's a thing where people separate the artist from the audience or something like that. I feel there's like a barrier, between it or something.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I've seen like a couple of members, and I won't name drop because that's defamation. And it
mm.
wasn't that they were rude at all. I think they were just sort of a bit more shy as
Oh,
members of
yeah.
the band. And because someone said this to me, and one of the members, and I'm like, really? He's shy? Because when went up to him and spoke to him, he was fine. And I'm thinking it might just be like certain people that he might be shy around or certain times. And I
Yeah.
don't have an issue with shy people. If it's one member of the band, then
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I found that as well, especially with other bands. Sometimes we play with some people are just laid back and quiet, but it's n never anything,
personal.
bad or personal because I always find like we at the level where everyone is so small, unless we're like selling out arenas, no one's gonna have an ego on them, you
No.
know? We're just like the everyday person. I mean, we still go to shows as audience members, there's nothing we don't feel like entitled to anything. It's
No.
in fact, I love people coming up to me and just hanging out and saying they enjoy the music or even hearing what they'd love to hear or love to see us do in the future. That's cool, man. I really enjoy that. Yeah.
No. So anyone watching this, approach bands. Don't think about it because that
Yeah.
moment might pass.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually really looking forward to this tour in Australia, just meeting the other bands and meeting locals in the place and seeing what they like, what they don't like, what's the scene like. That's one of my favorite things I think about being a musician is just going on tour and meeting people, in different towns and getting the vibes there. And yeah, it's awesome, man. I love it.
Nah. And because you're on tour with the other band members for sometimes weeks on end, it's sort of
Yeah. Yeah, it can be, but like that's why it's funny. That's the other thing. Like whenever we do tours, like with our first EP tour, um, we toured with a lot of different bands we haven't toured before, and all of them are like really cool. But after a while of playing shows, we kind of get the bands that we are like, you would say like really gel well with, and then some bands who, probably wouldn't be as fun to tour with. And so we consistently now tour with bands that complement our sound and just really, really cool guys. And we get on with we like just as you said, one of the bands in the image is one of my favorite bands to play shows with. We just did I think it might have been our last or second to last show down in Rotorua, and it was amazing. Like it was crazy. It was a rainy night. It was this big sports bar, and it was us in the image. Dead Set were there, and I think one or two other bands. And I didn't even expect that big of a turnout, but it was out the door. And
Yep.
Rotorua is not known for the metal scene, so it was funny. But yeah, I mean, in the image were amazing. That was like the second or third show we played with them, and I was just speaking to Justin the other day from In the Image, talking about plans for next year and maybe a tour or something. And yeah, that's one of our favorite bands to play with, man. Those are amazing sounds. Love touring with them. Their music complements us really well, and just really good guys.
Yeah, I've nothing but praise for In Their Image. Like I've only spoken to Justin and Campbell on the
Mhm.
podcast, but like yeah, nice blokes. Actually, I've never had an issue with any New Zealand band that I've approached or interviewed. They've all been, and including this one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, I think like we all very like we know we're a small community. We all kind of tight knit, try to support each other where we can, and yeah, just know it's all about the music and having a good time at the end of the day. Yeah.
Very, very important and very important life lessons as well in general.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I know I learned tons just from my time in chasing Titans and all the experiences and stuff we've been through. But yeah, no, it's been super fun, man. Yeah.
Like this has been far out an hour already.
Yeah, yeah.
Far out. Why does the second
Crazy.
half an hour of the hour go faster than the first half an hour? All
Insane.
right.
Eh?
I probably should get more questions, otherwise this might go on forever.
Hmm.
All right, what has the response been like for Infinite Paradox?
Oh, the response has been incredible, really, really positive. And I think when we released it, we were hoping. Um, people would enjoy it, would listen to it. Maybe people liked a couple of songs, but it's been really incredible what we got back. Germany has been really onto it. We had a lot of articles coming out in magazines and media in Germany. We had quite a bit coming up in Spain and Mexico as well. And it was funny, a lot of it was in Spanish, and I had to use Translate to kind of see what the article was about on the album and stuff. But it was so much love and support from all over the world that it was really cool. And I think my favorite part has just been from people as well, like you messaging and telling us about the album. And I also had a lot of people message me on my socials and just like quote lyrics and say this means so much to me because of this experience in their life. And that was surreal as well, hearing people like quote stuff that I wrote down and just say that they really held on to it. And someone the other day was just telling me they actually someone like made a meme about Infinite Paradox like being on repeat and not listening to anything else. And I think she was saying that it really helped her through some like insane times and stuff. So I mean that's been insane. Like for me, it's still hard to even kind of take that in, that people are having such a positive emotional. It's really nice to hear, but it's still like wow, like I can't even tell you how grateful I am to hear this. So yeah, it's been really positive, and I'm really glad that people have enjoyed it to that extent. Yeah.
And one message is like it means a million times to the bands. Like even just one person messaging you is like you've hit the
Yeah.
jackpot.
Yeah, that's it. Just to know that, you listened and you had a positive experience or took something positive out of it, whether it was just from, yeah, the song sounds good to, oh, this really means something and reminds me of something emotionally, but it's in I can interpret it in a positive way, then yeah, that's all we want to hear. It's made the time, effort worthwhile for pouring this out. Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, very important. And yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about Infinite Paradox, as we already know.
Yes, yeah. No, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man.
All right, the best review slash feedback yourself or any of the other members of Chasing Titans has received.
Um, I think like officially it would have been from, I think it was Ein Backstage magazine in Germany that said it was a really good review of the album, but they did say something along the lines of it being a really cool evolution in our sound and prepping, getting into like a lot bigger things to come. It was very complimentary and felt really, really nice to hear. And I think also coming from a magazine outside of New Zealand or a publication outside of New Zealand, that was really cool. On a personal level, it's like I said before, when people message me song lyrics that I've written and tell me why this means so much to them. It was crazy. I've never had that experience before, and it was really cool. I think also with our EP, a lot of the themes around the songs in the EP were very um, I know in our last interview we talked about it. It's not surface level kind of themes. It was much darker and deeper themes. It was like themes around domestic violence, isolation, um, a lot of stuff that people deal with on a negative basis that was explored. And a lot of people ask me about that as well because um, it wasn't like I'm just writing a song about being hyped up and ready to go. It's like exploring really dark themes that's not usually explored in metal music. And I think um, exploring that and answering those questions was cool because uh, people actually took the time out to analyze those songs to that kind of a level. So that was a huge compliment in itself. So yeah, stuff like that is cool. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, as a band, we always love, even if you don't take anything away, just think this sounds cool and put it on your playlist and stuff. But the feedback we get when people actually really read the lyrics and take it into account and analyze how they feel about what's being written and what they're hearing, that's amazing. And yeah, always very complimentary.
Nah, very good feedback and reviews there. But as you said, Adrian, with the German magazine, doing
Mm.
the article. That's huge.
Yeah, that's been awesome. I mean, we've had a lot of good support out of Europe and UK and the UK as well. There've been like radio stations there in the UK and France and Germany who every single time one of our singles have come out, they've played it and given us a shout out and um, an insane amount of support. Actually, before this tour in Australia, our label actually told us like, why don't you guys go on a European tour, the first international one? And I wanted, like, I chose Australia over that because of the fact that a lot of our success is due to Australia in a sense, because on our EP, the song Cabin Fever, which was the first single, was I think it was Valley FM in Canberra. They it made it onto like some top 10 list there, and our label took notice of that, and that's how we got signed. So I always felt this really good connection from the very beginning of the band with Australia. And I mean, we've been played on radio like Valley FM and some other stations there, and we've always had like really nice support. And for me, it was really important to do Australia as a first international tour and really kind of go down and meet a lot of the people who always listen to our music and just play to people always messaging me and asking me when we're coming down and stuff, you know. So uh, that was super important to me. But definitely, yeah, I'm very we're very in debt to Europe and know we have a lot of support there. And that's probably the next tour or one of the tours in the future. We'd love to go out and check it out. And I think actually on Monk and Pedal, I'm not sure who it was. There's two bands who've just come back from a European tour. I think Sensoro is one of them, and they were
Oh.
yeah, the two of them just come back from like a 3 month European tour. That's amazing, and I can't wait to ask them about it. Yeah.
See, I hadn't heard of Sin Soto or not much of them until I heard that cover they did with Nuclear Vision from Queensland of the
Oh
song
yeah.
"Breathe" by the Prodigy. I'm like, who is this
Yeah.
person collaborating? And they're like, it's Sin Soto. I'm like, how have I not heard this?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's amazing. Like even with Monkey Pedal, a lot of bands that like on there I've heard of, but there was just like that some bands I've never heard of, and then when I looked into it, I'm like, oh my God, these guys are amazing, like, and they
Yeah.
are doing massive things. So, yeah, it's cool. That's like another way to discover bands. Like, think, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to this festival. Let me like do some homework on the bands I'm gonna see, and then you just discover like massive bands were there.
And it's like you go to some gigs or festivals and there's like no bands on the lineup
Yeah.
that you haven't heard of, and you're like, oh well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, that was funny. And like how I discovered even Bring Me the Horizon was, I went like when I was a kid, I think I went to some festival and it was them and Rise Against. And I knew Rise Against because I was listening to them and I was like, oh, who's Bring Me the Horizon? Let me go listen to these guys to get ready for the festival. And I was like, oh my God. And that was like during the Sempiternal phase and I was just blowing my mind.
Oh no, that was probably my second favorite album, Sempiternal. I think
Oh yeah.
Suicide Season still's probably mine.
Yeah, yeah, Suicide Season is up there. Sempiternal is my second as well. I think my first would be There's a Hell.
Oh,
That
the
was just
very
like,
first album, yes.
yeah, yeah, that was where they first started using a lot of synths and mixing it in. And oh, it's just like perfection, you know, with the synths and everything on that album. It's just and Sempiternal really like took that up and really polished a lot of stuff. But yeah, they did some really amazing stuff.
I think with Sempiternal, like even though I'm not a singer and never will be, every time Shadow Moses comes on and break down a chorus, I just scream it out, even if I'm making dick of myself.
Yeah, it's such an anthem, man. You just gotta get up and shout it out.
Because it came on last night at the gig. I'm like, why is everyone sort of doing this Sempiternal? Like, because I couldn't hear it very well, I'm like, oh, duh, Sam, it's Shadow Moses, of course.
Yeah, oh man. I remember the first time hearing that song as well. They actually at that first concert they opened with Shadow Moses, and I'll never forget everyone had their phones in the air like just before the drop comes in. And as soon as I had my phone as well, as soon as the drop came in, everyone's like, "Ugh," and then I remember watching the video back, it just went black because everyone was just like surging through there. It was so funny, it was so
Oh.
cool, man. I miss that era of Bring Me the Horizon.
And I don't. dislike their new stuff. Like I quite like Next Generation and
Yeah,
Post-War, Human Blood, Survival Blood, whatever it's called. That's the Spirit even had some really good
yeah.
songs on it.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I've been listening to it a lot like this week, and it's really cool, really fun album. I know like people are divided over it because it's obviously quite a big change from what they were.
Yeah.
But I think no matter what genre they tackle, they still make really good music. Um, and it's one of those things. It's an age-old thing. I think Architects have suffered with it as well, where you try something new, and a lot of the older fans really are not happy with it,
Yes.
and then you kind of like, well, what do you do, you know?
Because a lot of fans are like, oh, I won't listen to anything from Architects after All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us. I'm like,
Hmm.
what's wrong with, like, okay, Holy Hell's not a masterpiece, but it's still a very good album.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorites. Holy hell, I think, Um, it's yeah, it's one of those really weird things, and I think like it's one of those things you look at Asking Alexandria, and th that's been an insane 180 as well, to the point where that was quite extreme, and they still divided over it. And I know Danny, like he was in some interviews saying that he hated metalcore, and that was never his thing. He was always a hard rock guy. So that's divided a lot of people. But um, yeah, it's hard. Like, on one end, it's like you could keep doing the same thing over and over again, which is fine and cool if that's what you want to do. Or you could try something new and be inventive. And I don't think there's a right or wrong there because, like, Breaking Benjamin with their latest single,
Yeah.
it's still classic Breaking Benjamin, still amazing. I absolutely love it. Uh, I've seen a lot of people still love it. A lot of people are saying, I've heard this exact same thing, the same song, the different parts of the same song in all the other songs in different songs as well. But I mean, I think Ben Burley has said, he's not trying to reinvent the wheel, He
No.
knows what he enjoys writing, and that's what he does. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's still awesome. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. It just depends where you want to go. But there's a risk to both choices in that. So um yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad we just have one album out so far, and that's like we don't have to, be at that point just yet. So
No. Well, yeah, it's interesting to see what the future holds for Chasing Titans. I'm actually very intrigued to see what the future holds. And
yeah, it's very interesting as well because I think what a lot of people don't know is our EP, which came first, was written after the majority of the songs on Infinite Paradox.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so it was actually in reverse. Because if you listen to the EP and then you listen to Infinite Paradox, you can hear it's there, but there's something that is quite different to each other, which is, what we wanted. But when we got signed, because the EP we went in, we wanted to do our first release, and we had those songs. It was quite nice. The recording process was really nice. It was, we were prepared, and it was much more laid back in a sense because we weren't signed at that time, so we didn't have a label almost breathing down our neck, talking about dates of release and goals and milestones to get done and stuff. But our label was awesome. Not to say that bad, it was good pressure. But yeah, when we went in for Infinite Paradox, we were signed on for like an album, and like, okay, these are the songs we want, and this is everything. At that point, we did have, I think, like a Poison Pill and Complete Submission with the newest songs written for that album, and then a lot of the other songs were existing songs that we kind of polished up for the album. So that's why, like, a lot of people, like, you hear the EP has a very specific kind of sound, and Infinite Paradox also has a very specific kind of sound that's related but still quite different because a lot of songs like Surveillance State and Cliffhanger were like probably the first two songs ever written for Chasing Titans. So it's quite interesting how it went through. So our next release will have the latest stuff for Chasing Titans. And interestingly enough, I know in prepping for this tour, I always want to do something special for a tour, like giving everyone there's something more, like something extra. That's always
Yeah.
what I like doing. So for Australia, because it's our first international tour, first time in Australia, we actually wrote the song, a brand new song that will be on our next release. We haven't recorded it yet, is my favorite song that we've written so far. That hasn't been played live yet at all. That will be played just for the first time ever on this Australian tour. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what people's responses are like. Like just the inner circle who've heard it all really enjoy it so far. It's a bit it's not it's a bit different. It's got a different vibe to it, but still very Chasing Titans. So yeah, I'm really excited to play that down there and see how you guys enjoy it.
Oh, I'm excited to see the footage and
Yeah.
yeah, oh, I should make the trip up to somewhere and see you
Yeah.
guys.
What you got a choice. There's five shows, so you got a choice.
Yes, which Monk and Pedal Festival I'd love to go to, but I don't know if I
Yeah.
can get that weekend off.
Yeah, that's in Brisbane, eh? So that's
Yeah,
quite a ways away.
yeah.
That's a
Well,
long
not
train trip.
actually not too far from where I was born though, because
Oh yeah.
Kingaroy's still about an hour from Brisbane, but it's in the
Hmm.
same state at least.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well there you go.
Oh, all right. I think I've got time for one more question, and then if Adrian wants to ask me a hard-hitting question,
Yeah.
and I don't want this interview to end. Can we
Yeah,
just
I know it's been a really good catch up, eh?
I'll just say to the gig tonight, nah, I'm just gonna stay and do
Yeah.
an interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Get your priorities.
Oh, gee, if disgust hear that, I might be in a bit of strife.
We might have to edit this one, eh?
I reckon they'll take the funny side of it. I reckon because I'm always giving them crap and they're giving me
Uh,
crap. It's a bit of banter. It's love
nice.
the
Yeah.
discuss guys. So yeah, there's no bad blood there. It's just a bit of banter. They're always like, "Oh, when are you
Nice.
coming to Queensland?" Like, "Oh, I'll just come and see you in Melbourne. It's easier." But
Yeah, when
anyway.
you come to Melbourne.
The last question for Adrian from Chasing Titans is if you could go back in time and change one thing you'd do differently as a musician, what would it be?
Oh, I think definitely I would um get my first release out there sooner. Um, and I think that's pretty key. A lot of us, and I still have this approach when we writing and recording, we have this perfectionist approach. The song is not good enough. I can't release it yet. This has to happen. That has to happen. And by the time you get it perfect, a lot of time has passed. And I think it's more important as a young musician to get your music out there than trying to perfect, to get it to the point where it's perfection, because you could waste so much time. Because we're living in a time where there was a time where perfection was the priority and would get you ahead, but we live in a time where there's music everywhere, there's stimulus everywhere. Get your foot in the door, get your release out there, promote it, keep working. You can still be perfect, but just keep moving forward. Don't stop. The hustle never stops. Like even with us now, even though we got signed and we got stuff out there going to tour, I still look for opportunities. We'll still play any show no matter what's offered. If it's in a place where we enjoy playing, or a new town, a new city, doesn't matter how small it is, we'll play the show because we look at it not that, oh, why should we play here? What a waste of time. Not many people come. We look at it, who's going to come, will see us for the first time. It's going to be our first exposure to them, to Chasing Titans, to see the town, to meet people there, and just have like a really positive and cool experience. So I would say definitely a musician, don't overthink things. Don't analyze. There's a lot of us can be like that, especially being musicians, and with the way our minds work. We like to analyze a lot and think a lot and weigh our options and stuff. But there's a time for impulsiveness
Yes.
that's very important. And I think we should definitely take that into account as well in terms of releasing music, jumping on opportunities, cold calling, reaching out to bands you want to play with, not facing defeat before you even tried. A lot of us, I speak to a lot of bands and stuff, be like, oh man, I would have loved to be on the show with them, but I'm just too nervous to ask them. The best opportunities in my life have come from just saying, what's the worst that could happen? As you say with approaching bands, hey man, do you guys want to do a show together? Hey man, I'd love to come to Australia. do you guys think you'd like to work with us for this show? Hey man, this is how a lot of things have happened. Just ask the question. You never know, because what could go right will always affect you way more positively than what could go wrong could affect you negatively. And I think that's important.
Because opportunities just don't come around the corner, Adrian. Like,
Yeah.
if you have the theory that you want to ask a band to do a tour with, but you're afraid of asking because you don't know what they're going to say. We're not psychic. We don't know what the band's going to say if you ask them. They might
Yeah,
say, hey, hell yeah, we want to do a tour.
exactly. It's you gotta. It's almost like they're judging a book by its cover, which you can't do. It's like because you never know, and I think it goes across to all facets of life. Whether it be for jobs, relationships, um, anything, any opportunity, businesses, whatever. You gotta ask the questions. Do a bit of cold calling, hustling. Just that hustle is always there. Like I never stop. I'm always thinking about opportunities or things that will enhance our live show or things that will make it cooler for the audience or new avenues that would expose us to more audiences. It never ends. It has to become that hunger to get it there. And a lot of my favorite bands who have done it, like Bring Me the Horizon or Pop We Drive, or a lot of massive bands, you read how they've gotten to that point, and the beginning was all hustling like that, cold calling, asking the question, trying, failing, keep on doing it. So I think we can draw a lot of inspiration from that.
Mm,
Mm.
no, because, yeah, well, you get that way in life, as you mentioned as well. Like, you can, if you just put off things or just don't think about doing it,
Mm.
you could
You'll
miss.
never the opportunity. Yeah, it's better. It's like an old adage, but it's true. It's better to try and fail than never trying at all, than fail to try, I think, as it goes. And I think that's one of the things I always say. I always feel like, man, when I'm older, I don't look back and say, oh man, I really should have tried that just to see what happens. I want to be like, well, I tried that, it didn't work, but I tried it as well. And I think a
Mm,
lot of the band and what we're doing with us with releasing this or going on tour in Australia, we can, no matter what happens, we can always look back and really be proud of doing that stuff. And I think any band doing stuff like that or trying things or any artist putting music out, it doesn't matter if they go to the top of the Billboard charts or no one really listens to it. They can be proud of what they've done and what they've put out because they've done it versus someone who's never tried.
no, very, very, very sound advice and valid points there.
Mm, yeah, I like to think so. Yeah.
More valid than anything I would say, probably, because, as I said, I might be in the scene, but I don't have first-hand experience like Adrian would have, or anyone in the music scene that's in a band or artist.
Yeah, I think like even I love what you do, Sam, as well. Like as you say, approaching bands, going to shows, having your YouTube channel, it's like stuff like that. There could be, someone who's out there who's passionate about music, but is hesitant to approach bands who really want to do something like that, but is just nervous to try. And it's like the universal advice, just start something. Try
Mm.
somewhere, start somewhere, get your foot in the door, just try it, because you never know what could happen will always be infinitely way more positive than the small negativity that comes with failing.
Yes, and the other thing, my advice is that YouTube channels or podcasts, whatever it may be, if you really want to give something like that a go, do it. Just straight up. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I mean, this hour and a half has shown that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, like there's so many channels and podcasts and why it's become interesting and so good is people love listening to interesting conversations and there's always a fear, like I think with everything that, oh wow, it's so competitive, there's so many people doing it, but the I think the point is just to try and start doing it, like not even think about that, just do your own thing. And if you're good at it, you will find success. If you keep on trying and finding your niche, you will fill that niche and you will find success. So I think no matter what it is you're doing, always try, always ask the question, always cold call. And if you fail, it's better. It's knowing that you've done it, that you've tried. It's another experience in life to have. So there's no excuse not to.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've asked Adrian the hard-hitting questions. Not that they've really been hard-hitting, have they? It's been more like a conversation than
Yeah.
anything. Now, Adrian, before we go, has the opportunity to ask the interviewer a question. The
Yeah.
tables have been turned.
Cool. And this is quite, I think, especially with your background, Sam, and the amount of shows and bands you've seen, this is going to be a nice, interesting one for you. Well, hopefully it is. But what my question would be, because you've probably seen hundreds of bands at this point, maybe
Yeah.
even thousands, been to an amazing amount of shows, spoken to tons of bands. Out of every single show that you've been to, which is the one show that has been, without a doubt, the best show, and why specifically? Why was the show the best? Was either something that affected you emotionally that you took out of the show? Was there something that happened that you just could never forget? Was it a day that was, something about the day that no matter how many years pass or no matter how old you are, you'll always remember this specifically. So what show was it? What band was it? And why?
I love the question, and it's actually a lot harder than I thought it would be to answer. I think, honestly, I don't know, it almost feels like it was last night's gig, actually, which sounds really weird. Now, the theory why I thought it was the show that stood out was because I didn't actually know what to expect. I put up a post on Facebook a couple of days ago just saying it's awesome to get out to these shows, and whatever happens at these two gigs this weekend doesn't change the fact that it's always an awesome time when these bands play.
Mm.
And I didn't expect anything last night, and I just felt like having that mindset going to a gig, you're not disappointed because then you're like, if
Yeah.
something happens, you're like, oh wow, this is
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that. I absolutely love that attitude. And I feel like this is how we should approach going to shows. With this open mind and not expecting anything. Because anything that happens is just gonna make things even better.
Oh, totally agree. And I would have walked out of last night's gig had I not talked to anyone from any of the bands playing, which actually I did chat to a few of the members. But
Yeah.
I just thought, at the end of the day, I've walked into the gig, I'm walking out, I've done my part in supporting the live music scene. Those
Yeah.
bands obviously appreciate what I do. That would have been enough.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. I think that's a really good attitude to have going in, and uh you're guaranteed to always have a phenomenal time with that attitude going in. So that's cool, man. Yeah, that's a really, really cool attitude to have. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's been so many though, Adrian. And
Mhm.
I've never walked out of a gig thinking I shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, sort of thing. Like, half the time when I walk out of the gig, I actually want to go back in, even though it's finished.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the atmosphere, and just everyone having a good time, and yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced that myself before. It's always like a good time. It's actually sad when the last band ends and then it's almost back to normality.
Yeah. I hate when the
Yeah.
last band finishes. It's like, just play
Yeah.
one more song, please.
Yeah, yeah, get the encore going. Yeah, man.
But of course, a lot of
Sure.
venues probably have the old curfew they have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the bad things. I know even like with the admin when we go to play one, there's always like this is the rules and the cutoff time is like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and
Oh,
um normally it's fine. I know there's one place where we played that was like it was a live music venue, but there was no alcohol. It was like some cultural not cultural side, but it was more like an artsy kind of venue that just hosted live music. So it was a really early cutoff time. But that was actually really fun. Like the crowd was very different to what we normally expect, and it's always funny as well when we play shows like that because sometimes people are there to dance and they don't expect like metalcore or something to come up, and like sometimes we play with these bands that are really like dance kind of bands, like rocky, but like you can sway a bit or something, and we go on like people are just like what the hell, and then you get people who just want to let energy out and they start like going crazy, but they become kind of like the clowns of the crowd. So yeah, no, it's always interesting and fun to see what happens. And actually, this is one of the reasons I really am looking forward to Australia as well, because in New Zealand, we have really cool crowds, but generally, the crowds can be at times quite reserved and held back. And like we're always encouraging people to get into the marsh or do a wall of death or something. So I got my hopes up high because I hear Australian crowds are on another level. So we're really
Yes.
looking forward to this. I've seen some crazy stuff actually happen that was really excited me. I think there was from one of the venues you can play at Wambarrel Ocean View Club. There was this thing that just was so funny where I saw this video of this band playing, and everyone, it wasn't like a dense crowd. It was more like people were around the edge of the wall, and then this guy gets on stage while they're playing, and it's in the middle is empty, and he decides to do like a front flip into the middle. Like there's no one to catch him. He knew that, so he just front flipped off his back and landed on his back. It looked so sore. And
Oh
everyone just
no.
started laughing because, like, why would you do that? And he's just like, hell yeah.
That's
So,
not dangerous at all, no.
yeah, I was like, damn, I can't wait for Australia.
Yeah, we're a different kind over here, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh man.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I hate this part of the interview. I really
Uh,
do.
yeah, it's been so much fun, man. And like as I say, I've had so much fun with this one and just being able to have like a really cool conversation
Yeah.
as opposed to like a quick fire professional kind of interview.
Can I
So yeah.
can I be brutally honest, Adrian?
Mm,
And this is nothing bad or anything. It
mm.
feels like this has been more like a casual chat than an interview.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's because I don't know you. And it
And it's
comes back to
mm.
that. I don't know why, but I think that's the theory.
Yeah, I feel like if you came to say like one of our shows or something and I met you like backstage, we'd just be basically talking the way we're talking now.
But yeah, no, I would have Adrian and Chasing Titans back on again. Now, that might have to wait a while because my backlog is like,
Oh yeah,
you
I can
got in the
imagine.
perfect time because
Yeah.
after December, it's like booked out till May. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was lucky. I'm really glad I got this because I remember when I reached out to you and we were that was just when we got Monk and Pedal, and I was like, okay, so we definitely need some promo, like local promo before we go to Australia. I was like, have to get onto your podcast. So I was quite lucky to get the time now. Yeah.
Yes, and this episode will be up before Monk and
Oh,
Pedal.
sweet. Yeah.
It might be up in
Nice.
48 hours. It might even be sooner. I'm not giving too much away of how long it will be, but it will be sometime early this week.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to see it. I know a lot of people will be looking forward to it as well, man.
Yes, I actually, this is one thing I don't understand. Like, I used to do the interviews on podcasts where it was audio.
Mm.
Didn't I get into the WebEx Zoom game earlier? I love this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, there's a big difference with actually seeing reactions and seeing how someone enunciates something, and it's very interesting. And I think uh, even on Spotify now, like I recently only learned that Spotify has well, they have the whole podcast library, but you can actually watch podcasts on Spotify as well with
Oh,
video. Yeah,
wow.
yeah, because our last one that we did with I think Biggie Nix was an exclusive Spotify podcast, and then when I saw it, it was actually there's an option to listen to it because I know some people are telling me, "Oh yeah, I'm listening to your podcast now on Spotify." But then there's also like where you could actually see it, the actual interview on your phone. And I was like, "Whoa, this is cool!" And I don't think, yeah, it wasn't. I'm not sure. I don't think it was a YouTube one at all. So I think it was just like an exclusive Spotify podcast. But that was really cool,
Yeah.
seeing that. So yeah, definitely, it's a cool different dimension to it.
But also, like, the quality, like, last episode, I could see the guest perfectly, and today's been the same.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
if you watch it back, there might be a couple of points where my picture goes a bit, like, dark. Like,
yeah,
there was one period I know where it was almost going to close.
yeah.
But outside of that, like, your background is perfect. I can
Oh,
see you
nice.
visually perfect. Your
Yeah,
voice is perfect.
nice. Yeah, I know. It's funny because with WebEx, I literally downloaded it after you said this is the platform you use. And like I made sure I set it up and all my audio is working. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, this is an awesome alternative to something like Zoom or something because the video is crisp and clear. Everything works fine. And I actually was thinking to myself, why aren't more people using it?
I think because, like, with the audio one, as strange as it sounds, you could have been, not that I'm encouraging doing anything that you were when I was interviewing the bands, but, like, you could have been doing anything. Like, you could have been drinking a 6 pack of beers or something.
That's that's true. Yeah.
Not that I'm encouraging drinking if anyone's listening.
No, that's very true, man. And yeah, it's quite interesting seeing the evolution of podcasts and how it's gone now. I do see like like some of these very famous ones like Bill Burr or some of the other ones where it's funny and entertaining where you can put it on just like the audio as you're driving and listening to it as well.
Yeah.
But then I always enjoy the visual ones where you actually see what someone is saying or something like that. So yeah, no, this is a really cool format.
No, I'm gonna stick with this.
Yeah, no, for sure, man.
Definitely. Yeah, so 2 interviews a month for December, and then it's gonna go to 3, and it might have to go to 4, depending on how many
Oh
want to
wow.
come on. So,
Oh yeah, that's a busy schedule, man. And yeah, pencil us in over there for maybe after May. We'll catch up and tell you how the Australia tour has been.
yes, I'd have you get back on any day. There's never been a guest I was like, one time and one time
And
only.
that's it. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's pretty good, man.
Some are like, oh, we'll come back on in 2 months' time. I'm like, what will there be to talk about?
Yeah. It's always cool, especially if they like I think like with this, like we're gonna do something, talk about what we want to happen, and then after it happens, come back and talk about what actually happened.
You've been telling me at like one of the gigs in Australia, the guy's done a somersault off the stage into
Yeah,
a
and broke
open
his back or
space.
something. Yeah. That was the most metal thing that we've seen.
I'm waiting for a row pit. I want to see a row
Oh,
pit at a Chasing Titans show like they did with Eamon and Martha at Knotfest last 2 years
oh
ago.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, that'd be pretty fun and pretty hilarious, eh? Yeah, I can't wait, eh? I hope people get a bit loose and just have a good time at the shows just to see what it's like, man. Because yeah, every video I've seen of local Australian shows has really been like, oh.
So if you haven't got tickets to any of the shows that Chasing Titans are playing, whether it's Monk and Pedal Festival, whether it's in Canberra, Sydney, get your tickets if you're in those states.
Sweet. Yeah, we can't wait to see you guys. We're really excited and hope you guys have lots of fun.
Definitely. And I can't wait to hear the stories. It's going to be some
Yeah,
interesting ones, I
it's
reckon.
good. It might be another like 3 hour interview, I think, post.
Oh, all right. Well, unfortunately, the time has come to end the interview, which I don't like doing. But
Yeah,
Adrian from Chasing Titans, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Love your stuff, and you're more than welcome back on any time in the future.
sweet. Thanks so much for having me, Sam. It's been amazing catching up. I really enjoyed this. The guys have definitely missed out, and I know for sure they'll make themselves available for the next one because this was so fun.
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes it's good with one person. Like I felt like we talked a lot, and
Yeah.
like it's good to have others on, but sometimes like yeah, it's talking over people and
Oh, that's it. That's it completely. I actually did feel that with previous ones where we'll get a question thrown out to us, and then like I'll say something, and then Torrance will say something, and Sly will say something, and I'll think of something else, and then one question will take like half an hour or so just to wrap up. So yeah, this might be a bit more efficient in a sense, even
yeah,
though it's been so long.
it hasn't felt so long,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, it's been cool.
All right, Adrian. Well, it's been a pleasure. I might speak to you before Christmas, but if not, have a happy Christmas and enjoy your tour of Australia. I'm keen to hear all about it.
Cheers, man. Thanks a lot for having me, and yeah, have a happy Christmas and cool New Year, and hopefully see you down there at some of the shows. And
Yes.
yeah, we'll catch up soon, man.
No worries, Adrian.
Cool. Take it easy.
Same to you.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.